The European Commission President says a decision on whether Ukraine's request to join the EU can go forward could come as early as next week. France goes to the polls on Sunday to elect lawmakers after President Emmanuel Macron secured a second term in April.
Thousands of protesters gather across the US calling for stricter gun laws in the wake of last month's mass shootings in Texas and Buffalo.
The European Commission President has told President Volodymyr Zelensky that the EU's executive opinion on Ukraine's request to join the bloc will be ready by the end of next week. Ursula von der Leyen held a joint briefing with the Ukrainian leader on Saturday in Kyiv, where she said the Commission is working day and night on an assessment of the request.
We share the same objectives. We want to channel the investments and deliver reforms so that we improve the lives of Ukrainians, we rebuild Ukraine, we make Ukraine attractive for investors, a conducive environment for the business sector, and of course support Ukraine in pursuing its European path. This is so important to have the combination of reform and investment. And with the reconstruction, we also want to work forward what needs to be done next. For example, you have done a lot in strengthening the rule of law, but there still needs to be reforms implemented to fight corruption, for example, or to modernize this well-functioning administration to help attract investors.
For his part, Zelensky said membership would be positive for the European project, given Vladimir Putin's actions. The whole of Europe is a target for Russia, and Ukraine's only the first stage of the aggression in these plans. That's why the European Union's positive response to Ukraine's application for membership can be a positive response to the question of whether the European project has a future at all. On the ground, reports continue of Russia's relentless use of artillery, especially in Donbass. Moscow's defence ministry released footage of what it said were Acacia self-propelled artillery crews in combat.
It was all smiles for Germany's Chancellor touching down in North Macedonia's capital to meet its Prime Minister. Olaf Scholz's timely visit, another bid to get North Macedonia and Bulgaria to solve a bilateral dispute that's blocking Skopje from starting membership talks with the European Union. The Western Balkans are of strategic importance for Germany, and I advocate for its admission to the EU, the German Chancellor says. For 20 years, the countries of the Western Balkans have been promised a European perspective, and it is time that these promises are followed by action. I would therefore like to make the following very clear right from the start. Germany is serious about EU integration for the states in the region, and of course that applies particularly to North Macedonia. Bulgaria so far refuses to approve the EU's membership negotiation framework for Skopje. Next, Scholz will travel to Sofia, but some political analysts are sceptical his bid will produce results.
France goes to the polls on Sunday after April's presidential election that saw Emmanuel Macron win a second term in office. This time people are voting in the first round of the legislative elections, choosing 577 lawmakers for the country's National Assembly. Macron is aiming to win an absolute majority, for which his party will need a minimum of 289 seats. Yes, I want to vote because it's important for our future, but I don't know who to vote for. I started to say to myself that I'm going to stay with what I voted for in the presidential elections, to validate the ticket I gave in the presidential elections and to stay consistent, but that's all. I don't have any more conviction other than that. Polls are due to open at 8 o'clock in the morning and close at 8 o'clock on Sunday evening. Almost 49 million people are registered to vote, but some observers think there could be widespread abstentions. They also say a large number of people staying away could work in Macron's favour. The second round of the poll is due to take place a week later, on June the 19th.
It could be one of the biggest protests in the US this year. Thousands are gathering across the country calling for stricter gun laws in the wake of recent mass shootings. Some 450 rallies have been planned.
Leading cause of death for
March for Our Lives was founded by students after the Parkland school shooting in 2018.
It's very hard for me to be here today, 4 years later, in the very same spot, because I can't believe we're still reliving it over and over again in so many parts of the world. Something has to change. I pray that this time something might change, but it's hard to keep up hope.
The culture on gun violence prevention has changed. More than 80% of Americans support common sense gun violence prevention policies. So our elected officials just need to listen to us, and then hopefully we'll see some action in the next few weeks.
The protests just weeks after 19 children and 2 adults were killed at an elementary school in Uvalde, Texas. And just days before that, 10 people were killed in a supermarket in Buffalo, New York. US President Joe Biden has backed the protests, calling on Congress to pass common sense gun safety legislation. After a 2-year hiatus, Roma Pride returns to the Italian capital. The event, which was first held in 1994, now attracts thousands of revellers. And after years of scant municipal support, Rome's centre-left mayor joined the crowds. In Thailand, an historic moment for the LGBTQI+ community. A celebratory march made its way through Bangkok last Sunday for the country's first Pride parade with local government backing. It comes as the government considers increasing rights for same-sex couples. And in Nepal, hundreds marched alongside security. Nepal has some of the most progressive policies for the LGBTQI+ community in South Asia, but the law still does not allow same-sex marriage. Young activists say it's not good enough and vow to keep fighting. Canadian superstar Justin Bieber has revealed he has a rare condition that has paralysed half of his face. The multi-Grammy winner told his fans in an Instagram post that he is suffering from Ramsay-Hunt syndrome and explained it was why he had to postpone his shows earlier in the week. He said he is recovering with physical therapy but did not know how long it would take.
The new National Museum in Oslo opened its doors to the public on Saturday and becomes the Nordic region's largest cultural building. Among the guests at the official opening dinner were Queen Sonja, Crown Prince Haakon and Crown Princess Mette-Marit, Crown Princess Mary of Denmark, Prime Minister Jonas Gahr Støre, other government ministers and architect Klaus Schuberg.
The new National Museum is the biggest museum in the Nordic countries, and it is built to contain, preserve and display our amazing collection of visual arts, crafts, design and architecture dating back from antiquity and up until the present day.
With 13,000 square metres of exhibition space, the museum is the largest in the Nordic countries and includes the Scream by Edvard Munch, amongst 6,000 other art pieces in its permanent collection. The new museum took 8 years to build at a cost of €617 million.
Leonardo da Vinci's unfinished masterpiece, St. Jerome in the Wilderness, is on show at Château de Croix-Amboise in the Loire Valley. The enigmatic artist spent the last 3 years of his life there. The painting is on loan from Vatican museums. You can clearly see a fingerprint. That's what's called finger painting, a kind of finger wipe that creates a slight blur and a slight sfumato, or blending. It's particularly moving because everyone's experienced being fingerprinted, and here we have Leonardo's fingerprint from 535 years ago. François Sambry says many questions remain unanswered, which is what makes this work so enigmatic, both to the public and the experts. Is it a commissioned work or one of devotion? Is it from the Florentine period, so before 1480, or from the Milanese period after 1480? Mystery and speculation over Da Vinci's St. Jerome in the Wilderness is likely to go on and on.